Like, hi, this is a video called Hug the Monster. I've been really trying to get this on higher quality video so it looks better and sounds better. Really, I've noticed there is a difference in quality, but I've had technical problems with everything else, so this is as good as I can do, unfortunately. Right, so what I've been saying this year, I hope Bing comes in because it makes the video better. By the way, if I hug her, I'm not implying that she's a monster. Right, she's not a monster, she's adorable. Yeah, this year I've been saying, I'm so conscious about speaking clearly because I know the sound quality is not too great. I've been saying that there's the state superstructure, it's very powerful, it has access to, it can get out there to millions of people, and that's like things like the news media and press most obviously, which is linked to the state, I think, the state superstructure. The state superstructure is like news media, capitalism, the military, courts, police, stuff that's always there. Now, the state superstructure likes to claim that we all have free speech, but really what they're saying is, well, you're powerless, you can't reach many people, so you're not a threat to us. So a person I'm going to use an example of is John Lennon, when he was a threat to the state because his message was about peace when they were at Vietnam War, and he was doing billboards around the entire cities across the entire world, not just in the US, and they were saying give peace a chance, and he was taking out advertisements in major newspapers across the world, and he even got a media scrum in his bedroom, all passionately singing, and I have heard it, all we are singing is give peace a chance, and they were going on for a couple of minutes at least singing that, and this like made the Nixon government and the CIA wanting to kick Lennon out of the country, back to the UK, but they didn't dare admit at the time the reason, because it doesn't sound right, he wants peace, kick him out. So they looked for an excuse, and it wasn't until years later that we found out that the CIA was spying on him. So at the time we didn't know the CIA was up to that, and also just likewise we didn't know they were doing Watergate scandal either. We knew they were doing Vietnam War, war and scandal, the same old stuff. I mean, it's ironic that now the scandal isn't Lennon, and the scandal's looked at as the CIA spying on Lennon, trying to find an excuse to kick him out. But they couldn't find anything that would be worthy of kicking him out of the country, so they had to concede defeat, which is interesting. I think the state still has the same attitude now, but it wouldn't try to kick him out of the country because of the internet now, so he'd just get to the UK and he'd be just doing the same stuff anyway. But in the 70s, from an immoral perspective, it did make at least rational, logical sense, because you could silence someone to a large extent by kicking them out of the country. Not on the Beatles records, but on on that sort of thing, on the peace message. It'd be harder for him to reach people from the UK. You just have to look at football. In them days, the World Cup couldn't reach America much, could it? So it'd be similar to that, I suppose. Now, my point there is just that we shouldn't claim that the state values freedom of speech when we know that if it doesn't like what you're saying and you have a megaphone like they do, they'd like to kick you out of the bloody country. It's just obvious, isn't it? They knew that there was millions of people who liked Lennon's message. love and peace and hippie stuff was all the rage back then, but most of the people voiceless, they didn't have that power, so they weren't a threat. Whereas they treated Lenin like he was bloody treason. Anyway, at the same time as this, about this Hook the Monster thing, you will get the point in the end. At the moment it just sounds like the same old what I'm saying, but I will get to the point. John and Yoko at their best. During their 1969 bedding protest against the Vietnam War, someone who wrongly thinks he understands and empathises with their message, and I've listened to this, I've listened to everything I quote here, says to John and Yoko, fight against the monster. Yoko replies, no, don't fight against the monster, fight against yourself. And what she's saying there is that the guy who's saying that is unaware that when he's saying fight against the monster, he's fighting himself, but he doesn't realise it. So she's telling him to realise that's what he's doing. She's telling him to become aware of his blatantly obvious projection. But he's psychologically unconscious, so he fails. See, imagine there was a higher evolved species than humans. You wouldn't be able to get them to fight no matter what happened, because they would just not have that inclination to fight. He's got the same inclination to fight as the monsters he's fighting. Some people spend their entire lives in a psychologically unconscious mind state, seemingly never able to grasp the concept of projection, which seems really easy for them once you do get it. The phone's ringing, so I'll just get that. Yeah, some people spend their entire lives not getting projection. But they're the ones who project the most, because they don't get it, which is ironic. Because, like, if you get projection, you cease doing it so much. The more you get it, the more you cease doing it. The ones who are the most conflict obsessed are the ones who are doing most of the projection, yet they're the ones who think they don't do projection. So this doesn't... I mean, kids got something in the playground, they say, it takes one to know one, you know what I mean? That's what projection is. So there's sort of like, people, even when they're young, seem to get a bit of an idea about it. Yeah, and people who project, they're people on my side, your side, their side, everyone's side. There's a massive difference, though, between someone that's on your side who projects and someone who doesn't project. You know what I mean? There's like, you can't have someone who projects all the time, someone who never does, and claim that they're alike. But then if you've got, say, a military establishment and it wants to batter the rebels, and the rebels want to batter the military, yeah, they're really alike. They're more alike than they're more alike than Ant and Dec. You know what I mean? They're really the same. They're the same thing. You see, like say Lenin, Yoko, and me, if I'm not in their level of fame, obviously, we like think like, well, if you want to bash down the establishment by beating them up, and then you just want to take over the establishment, then you're them, and you even become the establishment. How much more like them could you get? So we're opposing you, because although you're anti-establishment now, your ambition is to become the establishment and to split yourselves off from society and to become everything we say we don't want. So yeah, so although this guy with John and Yoko is saying he's on their side, he isn't. He is not at all. He's a reporter who just doesn't understand them and thinks he's in with them. So to get back to the quotes, because when it's online this, and I was pausing it, playing it, writing down what the quotes were. The guy protests that he does know, he is aware, he does know who the monster is, etc. And he's saying that the monster's alienating people. And John Lennon, something pops up in John Lennon's mind there, thinking, they're alienating people, what about you? You're the one in a war with them. So therefore you're alienating yourself against everyone who's on their side. So, nothing could be more alienating than that. So John Lennon doesn't seem to think the guy is aware at all, and chips in, no, you are alienating people against other people. Now to me that is just undeniable. Someone wants to beat the crap out of the other lot. They're not alienating people against other people, to my mind they are. Lennon then says that we've been overthrowing governments and stuff for the last, forever. He says 2 million years because he's just trying to say forever. He knows that 2 million years is not, it's an exaggeration, obviously. He says, and then he says to the guy, your logic is 12th century thinking, that's what you're talking about. And then he says, everybody has done that gig. And he says, it's got us nowhere. He says, you can attack Nixon all you like. Now, this is a good point, because Nixon was attacking Lennon, and yet Lennon uses Nixon as like, what's the point of attacking Nixon? It's not going to get you anywhere, it's just going to get you another establishment, whether Democrat, Republican, who cares? It's still going to be all the same. He says, we tried that gig, and he also uses British examples in that as well. Yoko adds, you have to get rid of that concept that there's somebody somewhere that's a monster. We are all responsible. She's saying the monster is in all of us. We're all human, unless you think you're not. John adds, we're all Frankenstein. We created the monster, so we can't shout at the monster saying, don't be a bad boy and kill me, when we created it. He adds, the struggle is in the mind, physical struggle is nowhere. And that's true, everything I've said about projection so far is a mind thing. John and Yoko then say that people already have the power, we just have to be aware of it. Now this is the classic people have power in the sense that if everyone wanted peace all of a sudden, chose peace, that angel in them, rather than the monster in them, then there'd be nothing the state superstructure could do about it, because that would be it. We'd have peace. They can't force the whole country to be warmongers and express their monster side. Now hug the monster. I've got to get onto this. Lennon's attitude was always that if he was at an anti-war protest, and let's say there's some violent person there who's battering the police, and there's a violent cop there and he's using his gun to batter them, he says he'd hug them, both of them, not because he's being patronising, but because he sees that what they're feeling is that negative feeling all of us feel, because we've all got that monster in us. I'll use myself as an example. If someone started trying to physically harm my dog and I had a gun, then I'm not separate from the human race. I'm like Lennon's a pacifist, yet he says we're all got potential violence in us. So have I. I would shoot the person. Now a higher evolved species than me wouldn't be able to do that. A higher evolved species than humans wouldn't be able to do that, because they wouldn't have that violence in them. So they'd probably just keep away from human beings in the same way that we keep away from lions and wolves and tigers and... There's a wolf. Let me just shut that door. Wolfie ran out the door before I could get to it. Right. I'll hug the monster after this. So Bean's just distracted me for a second. So yeah, so he's not saying, he's not being patronising when he says he would hug them violent people. He's saying that we've all got that in us, and we're all power trippers, and we're all angels. And in a minute, I'm going to get two examples Lennon uses about himself as a power tripper, because he gives two examples of how he had to spend 10 years overcoming being a power tripper, saying that my mind was full of garbage, and I was so garbage that I had to spend 10 years getting rid of the garbage in my head. He doesn't say that after that 10 years that he no longer has any garbage in his head, or he's no longer an idiot, no longer a monster. He still thinks he's got that in him like everyone else. But it's not troubling him as much as it used to, because he got rid of a lot of the garbage. You can't ever empty your mind of these things though. So we'll always be a bit stupid, we'll always be angry, we'll be bright, we'll always be everything in between, we'll always be a monster, we'll always be an angel. And like I said, the pacifist has extreme violence in them, extreme violence. Like I said, I'm a pacifist. Someone harmed my dog, I would shoot them, and I would shoot them again until the bastard died. So that is how far, that is how much violence is in a pacifist. So don't think the word pacifist means they would never harm anyone, no matter what they did, because we're all human monsters, the monsters in all of us. And if you tortured the pacifist enough, you don't have to bring the dog into it. If you tortured the pacifist enough themselves, then they would lash out with a knife and stab the twat to death until they died again. So we always have to be careful with these labels, because they're misleading. And Lenin says that he's a pacifist, and at the same time he says he's very violent. And that's the point. So he's known for being a pacifist, love, peace, hippie, but he still would agree with me what I'm saying here, because I've heard him say this stuff, that he's very violent pacifist. And that's like same with angels. You know, the people who are really angelic, don't think they've got a violent side, they're just all angelic. It's just nonsense. We've all got these potentials in us. We're all Hitler, we are all monster, we are all Buddha and Christ and angelic, and we're all everything in between. So that's why Lenin says he would hug the violent cop that's beating people over the head with his gun, and would hug the violent revolutionary that's throwing his fists around at cops. It would show them their loving side by doing that, and he'd also just be choosing to show his own loving side rather than choosing to show his violent side that I've mentioned. Yeah, on Lennon's power tripping, the two examples he gives. Now, one of them is easy for him to give, really. No one's going to think anything about it. The other one is more like something that you could get criticised on. I could imagine him getting criticised on. Now, the first one that's easy for him to confess is the Beatles. He said when he left the Beatles, he was still power tripping about them in his mind. This is the possessions of the mind, or mind possessions. Now, I don't have any particular feelings about Everton Football Club. I know a bit about Everton Football Club. I could chat a bit about it. I could also get caught out with ignorance about some aspects of them, such as, I don't know, how good or bad they were in the 1960s or something. Now, but I have no possession in there in my mind, like Lennon would have had with the Beatles. So it's not a possession of the mind. Some things you can have in your mind that aren't possessions, like I've got Everton Football Club in my mind as not a possession. But say it was Newcastle United, and just being hard done by in a cup final, or if it was England who'd been hard done by a referee in a World Cup semi-final and ends up getting beat on penalties, then these things might bring out a bit of power tripping, a bit of hostility towards the referee and a bit of emotion. But the Everton thing's safe in my mind because there's not much bias there. It would have to be a very, very, very specific circumstance to bring out anything against or for Everton. But with Lennon, you can imagine with the Beatles, with it being stuff full in his mind, loads of stuff. So that's what a possession of the mind is. All that stuff thrust on him. It's the same as it is for the other members like Paul McCartney and Anderson and Ringo. And the other one though is probably more important. He admits that he had a time in terms of politics when he went through an authoritarian left phase. He even points directly to an interview that he had with Tariq Ali as an example of when he was power tripping and wanting attention from those like Tariq Ali. Now this is what he's later rejected from clearing his mind. This attitude of we're going to be tough, we're going to beat you up, we're going to take over the establishment, we're going to have what you have. This is the establishment, you're as bad as the establishment, Lennon would say now. He'd say his old self was as bad as the establishment for thinking like that. Because the two Rottweilers going after the same bone for the same thing. Now, it's not that he's got rid of all that from his mind though. Potential's still there, and he would admit it's still there. So he would agree with this. Hug the monster. I mean, I got the title. Was it the title's inspired by him and Yoko? I think it's fantastic. So don't repress the enemy because you are the enemy. Join hand in hand with the enemy. Hug the monster. We are all the monster. So if it projects out the monster onto you, then embrace it. If someone wanted to say I'm the monster, I wouldn't deny it because there's a monster in me. Well, just here, like, I can imagine some people thinking, oh, he's trying to sound good, he's not meaning this, he doesn't really think he's a monster, etc, etc, etc. I do think that I'm a monster. I do think that, I really do. What I mean is, I'm not better than you, I'm not better than anyone else. I'm not saying that to be nice, I'm just saying it because it's true. If anyone who sees me on a video, all my videos, who lives in another country or whatever, doesn't know me, just doesn't think I'm better than anyone else. They shouldn't do either. I'm not saying that to be nice either. I'm not saying it to sound good or because it's the right thing to say. I'm saying it because I'm just this person born into these circumstances, and if I'd been born into different circumstances somewhere else, maybe in a more authoritarian country or something, maybe I would be thinking that, you know, I'm correct for being like that. Whatever circumstances we're all born into, humans tend to have this tendency of thinking they've got the angels in them, and them over there have the monsters in them somewhere. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. We're all the monster. And the very fact that they think in that conflict way is the monster in them. So, I want to be thought of as the monster. Definitely. Because we're all monsters. We're all everything else as well. All these potentials exist in us. As I said, I would kill someone if they tortured me or tortured my dog. So it's not a case of that I'm just a pacifist. So I see conflict coming from various news media sources in America, Fox News, maybe it's in Britain, the Daily Mail. Hug them. Let them say that they're the monster. Let them be hugged by the monster. So, I'd like some people to step forward and saying to these things, to them sort of news network sites and say, look, pick on me as the monster. Pick on me. I want to sacrifice myself as the monster that you're trying to attack. Now, this is the best way to do it. Don't go in for confrontation with them. Say to them, I am the monster, as you say. Because we are the monster. You see, if you go in for violence, violence begets violence. If you go in for power tripping, which is what most people do with these news networks, they hit back at them. Power tripping begets power tripping. So if you power trip against them, they'll power trip back. And then if they power trip against you, you usually power trip back. But I'm saying don't do that. It doesn't work. Say, yes, you are right, I am the monster. That's the way to deal with that. Because then it gets across that we're all the monster. If one side's doing that, then people aren't going to look at them in news media and say, oh, they're all angelic. So it gets across that we're all the monster. It's just jolliness begets jolliness. So, you know, you hear people say, oh, that person's so bubbly, everyone can get on with them. It's because that's giving back what they've dished out. But it's time when it's the negative, it's time we gave back the positive. Let's continue with this positive begets positivity. Don't mind that. I don't need to be critiqued and changed or anything. Don't need to react different to that. But even in that jolly person there's a monster. I don't know. You're going to get out of them somehow or other. Definitely. So we're all monsters. I'm just looking at some notes, see if there's anything else to say. All these are potentials. The love, the peace, it's all potentials. So I'll give another example. I haven't written it down there, but it's just come to mind. Say someone's watching a movie and it's really sweet and it's heartbreaking, and some people, tears start coming down your face. Now, everyone has that potential, so the person who isn't physically crying on the outside often is crying on the inside. It's just the repressing that. So the pacifist represses violence more. It takes more to bring out that violence. As I say, maybe it's have to be tortured or something. But it's there, the potentials are there, we're all human. Yeah. And by following the logic of what I've said in this video, we get to what Lenin means when he said, you are alienating people against other people. You know, we get over that alienation. Because we're no longer doing it. We are accepting when someone accuses us of being monsters, that we are monsters. Right, that's the video. I wish I could have done it higher quality. And here's Bean, and she's not a monster. Well, we're all monsters, but I can't call my dog one.
Where is it? Where is it? There we are, I've got it.